Hello and welcome to another episode of Brodie's Bedtime with me, Brodie's dad, and my friend Toronto. Hello, Brodie. As promised, each week we're going to give him a quick update on the World Cup. So Daddy's team are out. Sadly, went out last night on penalties. We'll discuss Brodie's English. So England England lost their final group game, but they still qualified as group runners-up. So they play Colombia tomorrow, and they have to beat Colombia. Oh yes. How are Canada getting on? Canada aren't there. Remember, we discussed this before. You're not very good at football. But you're going to host the World Cup in 2026 with the US and Canada. Yeah. Hey, you never know. You might actually qualify and play in it then. So good luck to England. I suppose your daddy's going to sort of reluctantly get behind them now. So that's your World Cup updates. I may not be able to give another one because I'm coming to see you next week, so it won't be a Brodie's Bedtime then. But, I'll let you know when I come and see you. So today we are going to talk about that man up there. I'll, hang on, go and sit down there. I was supposed to get this picture before we started. So this is Thomas Jefferson. Ooh, he's big. Well, it's just quite a big picture of him. And, you might recognize the name because that's your middle name, Brodie. Well, one of your middle names anyway. You have two middle names, Neil and Jefferson. One after Gonk and one after your daddy's hero, Thomas Jefferson. Now, he's quite famous because he wrote something called The Summary View of the Rights of British America. It's not his most famous work, but it was an important work nonetheless. Now, we're talking about Thomas Jefferson today because, do you know what Wednesday is? Is it my birthday? No, it's not. When is my birthday? Oh, I don't know. When is your birthday? I don't know either. We've never really celebrated it. It's a bit awkward. I'll tell you what, in a future episode, shall we try and decide a birthday for you? Oh, that would be fun, yes. How did you decide your birthday? Well, it was the day I was born. Oh, when was I born? I don't know. This is why we don't know your birthday. But we'll discuss that in the future. Oh, all right then. So, yeah. So, again, do you know what Wednesday is? It's July the 4th. Okay, great. Do you know what's important about July the 4th? No. Well, it's American Independence Day, and they make a big deal of it in the USA. They have fireworks, and the president does some stuff, says some speeches, or in this case, the president will send some angry tweets. So that's what they will do. But we're bringing Thomas Jefferson into it because, along with the other thing I wrote, I said that he also wrote the Declaration of Independence. And now independence happened when the 13 colonies in British America decided that they no longer wished to be part of the British Empire. Oh, only 13 colonies? Well, there was lots of colonies, actually, but this was just this specific 13. All the ones south of Canada and north of Florida. There were many more colonies. We obviously had colonies in Canada. Yay, Canada! Oh, Canada! Yep, thank you. Enough of that. Yep, the Canadians, they didn't really rise up in rebellion the same way the Americans did, because, they're quite a polite nation, aren't you? Just invented the donut instead, and, quite easygoing people, very nice to get on with. Ow! Oh! Ow! Okay, you're not all nice, you're an exception. Where did you get that spoon from? I found it in the kitchen. Okay. Toronto aside, Canadians are generally quite polite, nice people. There's also colonies on many of the islands in the Caribbean as well. They didn't rise up in rebellion either. So just these specific 13. Why just those? Well, I will go into that another time. There's lots of reasons, really. Some of them official, some of them not so official. But it was just those 13 colonies, and Thomas Jefferson locked himself in his room for 17 days, apparently, and scribbled out the Declaration of Independence. Now, he's a very learned man, Mr. Jefferson. As well as playing the violin, he also studied law, history, agriculture, science, architecture. He was a great architect, theology. And, in his lifetime, he wrote 80,000 letters. 80,000? Yeah. 18,000 of them were just on politics, and they make a wonderful collection, very important collection actually. But 80,000 letters. And back then, you had to dip your nib into your ink to write with. Be a lesson to you, son. Don't dip your nib into the wrong ink. No one else got that joke. So he used all his learning there to write the Declaration of Independence. Now, it was largely based on the works of a philosopher called John Locke, who's an English philosopher indeed. But it was not so much a new theory, but a statement of what was already known, and therefore a reason to declare independence from Great Britain. Did they want to be British then? Well, they did, but they wanted their rights as English folk, and therefore they declared their independence. So that's one of Thomas Jefferson's crowning glories, the Declaration of Independence. He had many. I could talk for hours about Thomas Jefferson, but we'll just focus on some of his other main ones. So he also wrote the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, which was quite a big deal. It disestablished the Church of England from Virginia. He was from Virginia. He was Virginian. Oh, where's Virginia? Well, it was one of the 13 colonies. It's a state in the US, in the South. And so that was very important, because that guaranteed the most important freedom of all, in your daddy's eyes. That is freedom of thought. Freedom to think whatever you want. Very, very important. I believe as long as we have freedom of thought, the rest will sort of fall into line. Your daddy could go on to another rant about how freedom of thought at the moment is currently under threat from millennials, but we won't go into that. But he quoted in this particular statute, God hath created the mind free. Quite right as well. So it lets you think about maple syrup or donuts or whatever it is you think about, or hitting me on the head with a spoon. Yeah. He also founded the University of Virginia, which is still there to this day. And he considered these past three things, the Declaration of Independence, the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, and the University of Virginia, as his three big things in his life, and they are on his tombstone in Virginia. Among other things, he also became the third president of the United States as well. He did that job for 8 years, from 1801 to 1809. And, should we pick one other thing? Decimal system. The US monetary decimal system. Dollars and cents. That was Jefferson, essentially. But that's 8 minutes. I think that'll do us for today. Maybe in future, maybe on April the 13th next year, we can. That's his birthday, by the way. We can talk more about Thomas Jefferson. But I'll leave you with one more quote from him. It says here, "I am a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more of it I have." Could really turn a phrase, this guy. So remember, Brodie, work hard, and good things will follow. I'm sure you're working very hard at the moment, bouncing around in your bouncy thing or whatever it is you do. Anyway, I'm coming to see you next week. Very exciting. Always like to see you, little man. So, one more thing. Before we go, I'm going to stop saying night-night, Brodie. Because clearly it's broad daylight. And, clearly not the night time. And Mummy doesn't let you watch this at night anyway, because apparently you get all excited. So we'll say bye-bye, Brodie. Bye-bye, Brodie. And I look very much forward to seeing you next week. Daddy loves you lots and lots. Bye. Bye.